that's why it's really important to have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this Degen?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss.
But really, at the end of the day, it's just a matter of a macro market. It's just what happens.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, so we can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
Welcome, ladies, gentlemen, Degens of all ages. Great to see you all again. We are back again with another Hell stream. I know it's been, I think it's been about a month since the last one. So thank you all for your patience. We're very happy to be back, and we've got some fun and exciting things to talk about today. With summer coming up, we're going to be going over some tips on just getting ready, getting your summer body ready, starting to get your exercises down and lose maybe lose some extra pounds if you got extra pounds to lose. And things like that. But first, I am going to go over, as I usually do, kind of my updates. I gave you all an update in the Telegram last week because that was when we were supposed to do the stream, but we ended up delaying it. And not too much has changed since then. Like I mentioned in there, the scale hasn't really been moving anymore. It actually went back up a little bit. But I was talking to Jay a little bit about that in the green room, and he's like, how's your sleep going? And I'm like, oh, yeah, well, my kid has, for whatever weird reason, been waking up almost every morning at like 1, 2, 3 in the morning and waking us up. So, sleep's not been great. And then he's like, so how's your stress doing? I'm like, oh, yeah, I'm having some issues with some friends right now that has been really stressing me out. Yeah. So, talking to Jay a little bit did really kind of help encourage me and get me kind of in the mindset of like, maybe I'm not, totally doing terrible. Maybe it's just outside factors. Yeah. So I did say I wanted to reassess my diet, but I think I'm just going to keep on the course. I don't think I'm necessarily doing anything wrong diet-wise. I did mention in there that I did have kind of 2 free meals, not this past weekend, but the weekend before. So, but it wasn't anything crazy either. But yeah, just sticking to the 1 free meal a day, a week. Sticking to carnivore, and it looks like we lost Nate. All right, well, I'll finish giving the update. Hopefully he'll be back by then. And continuing to be careful with my drinks. I did decide to open alcohol back up for whenever, any day of the week, but I'm still going to be careful with it. And I have noticed that I've been starting to take a little more liberty with freedom with drinks. I'm going to kind of tamp that down because I had like a couple smoothies. I went to a card show over the weekend, and I mentioned that during, I think, our Whiskey Wednesday stream. And when I was there, it was in the mall. So we were right next to Cinnabon, and there was like a smoothie place. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't have Cinnabon.
Dangerous.
Yeah, exactly.
Cinnabon,
I can't have Cinnabon. And I did good. I didn't have Cinnabon. But I did have smoothies. It was kind of like, since I can't have Cinnabon, I'm gonna have these smoothies. But I also did get a ton of exercise in while we were there, so that's always good. But yeah, that's about all I've got. Still going strong on the bike, thinking about trying to get out more. I have been getting out to walk physically, like I mentioned. That was going to be one of my goals, to get out at least twice. In the card show, I was there all 3 days, so 3 days for walking around instead of being on the bike. And I had this big heavy binder. I carry around a top loader binder, and it's got 288 slots, and I have it completely full right now. So 288 top loaders inside of the binder with all of the cards. It weighs a good bit. Like, my feet are killing me. So yeah, I think I'm going to continue doing that. Actually, there's card shows out here like almost every weekend, and very that cool. Feels like great exercise. It's feels like it gets more into me than the bike does, and it's however long I'm there. So the whole time I'm there, I'm just walking around. So
whenever you can combine the things that you love doing already with the physical activity as a cherry on top, that's the perfect way to do it. Because you don't even think about it. You're like, I'm walking around, I'm interacting with people, checking out the card show, doing some trades, and you're not even thinking, oh, I got to get X amount of steps in. You're just going. Right? So
Yep,
it's the best
exactly.
possible way to incorporate activity into your life, into the stuff that you already like to do. So that's super good. And yeah, I definitely will say, and what I would recommend is to you just stay to track, right? If you're hitting your nutrition, if you're keeping your physical activity, your exercise constant, like consistent stress, right? Stress comes in all forms, some good, some bad. But lack of sleep can add to the stress. Dealing with like if you're going through things with close family and friends, that could significantly contribute to the stress. That elevates your cortisol. Cortisol is one of those things that is really, really good in small doses. But if that thing keeps elevated, and lack of sleep and family stress, friend stress can definitely elevate that consistently. It can make you hold on to a lot of water, and it can definitely make the scale stall, right? But once you get that resolved and you stick to your exercise routine and your nutrition routine, it's gonna start moving again, right?
Hmm.
But as long as you address those things, right, get yourself in a consistent sleep schedule again, resolve the issue that you've had with your friend group, and then take it from there.
Yes, sounds good. Yeah, so that's basically all I've got for updates. When it comes to like adding new things, I think I want to start researching into gut health. I've been feeling like my not necessarily blocked up, but I've been feeling really bloated recently. So I want to kind of see if I can figure out what's going on there. There are some brands of things that I want to try. One of them is Rise Mushroom Coffee.
Mhm.
They advertise themselves as being like a good thing for gut health. I do enjoy coffee. Usually every morning I have a cup of it just because I like the taste of it. And I mentioned on one of our previous streams that it's actually been helping me with my cravings because I get to put a little bit of monk fruit in there, and it's it's a little bit sweet. So probably going to look into that. And other than that, just kind of continue on with what I've been doing. So primarily meat, a little bit of vegetables, up to 3 servings of sunflower seeds if I choose to. And Nate is having another issue, it looks like. Okay. And a little bit of like olives, just things like that. That's pretty much it. Oh, and like a little bit of fruit. Main reason I added in a little bit of fruit is there's this salad mix that they sell at Sam's Club that I really love. And it's got strawberries and blueberries in it. So that's pretty much where the fruit is. I don't really have fruit outside of that other than the smoothies over the weekend.
Yeah, if you're having some issues, because look, take it from somebody who's also primarily carnivore, like quite literally. I have steak almost every single day, right? That's my main calorie source: steak, butter. So I can definitely relate to you in terms of the gut health, right? It can cause some constipation in some people. So looking onto alternatives like the microbiome stuff, coffee will definitely help you get things running. Rise is a popular brand. I've never tried anything besides regular good old black coffee, so you have to let me know how that works for you. And definitely adding like the fruits, the vegetables that you like can help, because I know as much as the hardcore carnivore zealots try to pass it on as the best thing since sliced bread. The data on fiber is pretty conclusive that it's more beneficial than it is harmful. I think the people that bag on fiber tend to cherry pick a lot of studies, as opposed to taking into the totality of evidence into consideration. So I am definitely pro fiber, and not just say go all in on the meat and don't have any fruits and veggies. Those are definitely gonna benefit you, in my personal opinion. So.
Yes, for sure. Sounds good. All right. Yeah, that's all I had. Nate said he's working on getting back in right now. So we'll give him a minute here. And then, once he's back, we'll get rolling with the questions. But Jay, while we're waiting for him, do you want to introduce yourself as though, pretend nobody's ever seen you here before yet?
Yeah. So I am the resident great value technical analyst of the Degen Roundtable. But before I really fell in love with the charts, my first love in terms of like career wise, I was into fitness. I've been in the fitness industry for more than a decade. That's what I went to school for. Instead of being the stereotypical Asian doctor, I was like, you know what? Screw being a doctor. I want to work in the fitness and nutrition industry. So I spent a lot of time, basically in my entire time in academia was spent learning about sports nutrition, athletics, strength and conditioning, nutrition, sports psychology, anything and everything that could possibly be related to health and fitness, and broadly speaking too, right? Not just the bodybuilding stuff, right? Not just the anatomy and physiology, like what's a bicep curl, how to do a squat properly. We had a very broad net, especially when you're an undergrad studying fitness and nutrition. So and then after that, I started coaching powerlifting. I had a very big focus on strength sports, with particular powerlifting. I had some general population clients, but most of the clients that I had when I had that focus was mostly focused on powerlifting. I've coached men, women of all ages across multiple weight classes, quite a handful of state champions, regional champions. I've had one gal who made it to the national stage here in the United States in the most competitive federation, the USAPL. It is the most competitive, the most saturated federation here in the United States. So very hyper competitive. I think she made it top 10. I think she placed 6th or 7th in nationals. And then I've also coached international. I have coached one international powerhouse. He's like currently the reigning champion of the 105 kilo weight class in the Philippines. Like, this guy literally came in there and took every single record: squat, bench, deadlift, total. He took everything. Didn't leave anything for anybody else. So that's where most of my experience has been. But now, after transitioning and focusing on crypto and my sales business, I still do the powerlifting stuff, right? I still coach, but that's more of just a hobby now, right? Because as much as I love it, it don't pay the bills.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
So
Yes, we
it
can.
actually sounds like you kind of already answered one of the questions that I had. I was going to field you, but I think I kept dropping me off. I think I'm gonna leave my camera off to see if that helps with the connection. But
Sure.
So follow-up question on that then, since you've kind of moved on but you're still connected, I was gonna ask you, what would you say was your most rewarding, like the most rewarding thing about working in the fitness industry for you?
Oh, this one in particular, I found it a lot in powerlifting, but it exists broadly in fitness. It's just harder to find in general fitness. But in communities like powerlifting, the very niche parts of the fitness industry, powerlifting, weightlifting, CrossFit, even though CrossFit is pretty big, it's still niche. The community is very, very, very supportive because it's small and we're kind of the outcast. And people kind of bag on us, right? Even within the fitness industry itself, right? So the community becomes very strong. It becomes very close and tight knit. A lot of us, like for example, when I was competing, a lot of my friends who competed locally, we went to the same gym. We didn't want to be a bother, so we quite literally, there was like this, sometimes there'll be like half a dozen or more of us at a time sharing one squat rack, sharing one bench, because we didn't want to take up multiple pieces of equipment. We'd compete together. We'd choose the same meets together. We'd be there with friends and family, all supporting each other during competition day. So that was a very, very fulfilling and very fun aspect of the sport of powerlifting. And I could say that about weightlifting. It's a very similar thing. And CrossFit, it's a very similar thing. It was the community, right? Because especially when you're a competitive athlete, it takes a lot of time and effort out of your day. When I was competing seriously in powerlifting, when I say a gym session would be at minimum 3 to 4 hours long, that was our minimum time. It was a lot. It was a big time sink. So it isolated you a lot. And so having a group of people that didn't make you feel so fucking alone was really great. The same way that we have it in crypto, right? We're kind of the black sheep of the financial industry. Entrepreneurship, we're like, it's a very lonely enterprise. And so just like with the Degen Roundtable community, just like with the powerlifting community, it was really nice to not feel so fucking alone. So the camaraderie, the community that definitely we built within powerlifting here in Arizona was definitely the the most fun for me for sure. It was one of the highlights, obviously, aside from accomplishing PRs and breaking records and stuff like that.
Very nice. So I have another question, and it kind of goes along with that, but I know this is probably more appropriate for you since you've been around the industry for a while. But even for the younger ones that are getting into fitness, how would you say that the industry's changed over the last 10 to 15 years?
This is a fun one. So on the practical side, the fitness industry back in the 2000s was a lot of fads. And I'm sure you guys can remember a whole bunch of late night infomercials selling you a pipe dream. Work out 3 minutes a day. You don't got to worry about nutrition. You don't got to worry about sleep. You don't got to worry about stress. 3 minutes a day, 3 times a week, you get your 6-pack abs. That was a lot of the fitness industry. A lot of it was gimmicks. A lot of it was smoke and mirrors. A lot of it was diet pills. Now the evidence-based side of it has caught on significantly, right? Before, people really looked down on the evidence-based stuff. Now, some of the most jacked dudes in the world, Chris Bumstead, Mr. Undefeated, Mr. Olympia of the classic physique, right? He retired undefeated. That guy follows an evidence-based approach, right? Although he might not look like it, I guarantee you his coach follows an evidence-based approach to fitness, to nutrition, right? So we've really learned a lot over the past 2 decades about exactly how it is to optimize training, right? Where you don't have to spend a lot of time doing nonsense, doing like not getting a lot of return for your time and effort investment into the gym. And the science-based fitness community has contributed a ton in that aspect, right? On the not so practical, well, I guess it's practical for some people. On the drug side, right? On the enhanced side, people have been a lot more open, right? There's not as much smoke and mirrors in that industry either, right? People are a lot more open. There's much less stigma around it. Obviously, if it's illegal where you're at, probably shouldn't engage in it, right? Back then it was illegal, which is why a lot like folks were a lot more secretive. But now folks are really open about it, right? About their drug use. Sam Sulek is a great example, right? He's very open about his drug use and his steroid use. And it's not just about the openness of people using. It's also about the science is caught up there as well, right? A lot of the PED usage back in the past. I don't want to say it was careless, right? Because at the upper echelons, they were obviously very careful about it. But now we've realized that you don't have to take as much as you think you do, right? Which means you don't have to compromise your health. You don't have to compromise your longevity, like your quality and your length of life, as much as it probably did back then when it came to using physically PEDs, right? Steroids, basically. So those are 2 of the biggest changes that I have seen over the industry, over the past 2 decades. There's still a lot of nonsense. There's still a lot of fads. There's still a lot of zealotry and cultism that develops in the fitness industry. I'm sure we might talk about that here and there, right? There are people that are like only carnivore, only keto, no seed oils, only if it fits your macros, only flexible dieting. You still get you still get the cultiness, you still get the zealotry, but it's not as bad, I would say, as it was back then. So those are definitely 2 of the big things that I've noticed within the past 2 decades.
The information is definitely more readily available. I think, at least for where I live, being that it's a very kind of a more active, I think, overall healthy state, you still see less and less people that are healthy. Like, we have more information, we have more accessibility, we could actually get in shape in less time. But I noticed, at least here, the people that are exercising, that are working on it, are relatively more in shape than they would have been 10 years ago. Like, there's more really lean, really strong, really like put together people that are, but then as the overall percentage of the population, I mean, it's still dropping. Like,
Yep.
how does that make sense that we have more and more overweight people, and yet the information on how to be healthy has never been easier to find?
That's a good question. First, I want to address one of your points. You are correct. It is a lot like the people that are trying to get fit. It's a lot easier for them. I've recognized that a lot in competitors. Back in the early 2000s, if you, especially as a natural bodybuilder, if you competed as a natural, if you came in and you had shredded glutes, you were like, bro, you took home the trophy, right? Achieving that level of leanness was absolutely bonkers back then, right? But
Yeah.
now, because the standard of competition has been raised so significantly, if you come into a show and you're like, yo, I'm 8% body fat in a classic physique show, and that might look good, like against 99% of the population. If you don't come in there, you don't got shredded glutes, you're not placing, man.
Crazy.
Right? But so yes, the standard has definitely been elevated. And so you're wondering if it's so much easier to have access to good information that can get you to that point. Maybe not striated glutes, but a healthy body fat level, right? Between 10 to 15% as a guy, between 18 to like maybe 24% as a gal. And believe me, man, 18, 24 as a gal, you're fairly lean. I think the reason for that is it's still a matter of, do people actually want it? That's the thing, right? Does it come from you personally? Like you actually desire it personally? Is it incentivized? And is it promoted? Those are the big things. Those are the biggest things. And I recognize that when I have clients and just people in general. A lot of people say that they want to lose weight, but the effort doesn't match the desire, right? There's a difference between want and need. And the people that need to lose weight, right? That they really feel like, I need this, right? It's a non-negotiable. I need it. It happens for them. But a lot of people, they just kind of want it.
Yeah.
And if you just kind of want it, you're not going to get it. It doesn't matter if you have as much information. It doesn't matter if you have access to good information now, right? If the desire isn't there, then it's not going to express itself in results. One of my mentors, one of the biggest things that he always speaks about is that we don't have a weight loss issue in America. We have it's not a weight loss issue because people lose millions of pounds every single year, right? It's a weight retention issue because most people, once they get on a diet and they might lose a little bit of weight, right? A lot of people end up gaining it back and then some, right? That is really depressing to see that people make so much progress and then they gain it back and then 10% on top of that. And I think the reason for that, and this involves your question, is aside from having good information to lose weight, there is not enough forward messaging. It's not as emphasized more on what happens on the other side of your diet, right? What are the habits that you need to maintain on the other side of your diet to keep that weight off? And that's another thing that's not happening. That's a very big thing that's not happening. The post-diet consultation, if you would.
That's a big thing that I've learned over the last probably 5 years is diet fatigue and managing it and understanding how and what is sustainable for you and your lifestyle. And I mean, like as a perfect example, the company that I work for, every year they have this big weight loss challenge at a company wide, like who can lose the most. And I'm thinking in my head, how is this sustainable? Like, we can't do this for more than a couple years because then everyone will be skin and bones. But no, of course not. Well, that's a great, I think that's a great point for us to like segue into what the episode is about, really, because I think that touches on a lot of stuff we'll probably we'll come back to in a second. But
and then just the last part, Nate, about talking about the incentivization. Nate mentioned it. Nate, the ascending man, mentioned it in the chat about RFK. I know a lot of people don't agree with everything that he says, but what RFK is doing is actually putting health and fitness and nutrition in front of the American people, right? He's making it a priority, right? He's incentivizing,
it should be,
right? And what my hope is that what we get here with somebody like him, even if you don't agree with everything, is something that we get in other countries like Japan, right? Fitness in Japan is incentivized, right? The society is built around walking a ton, right? The society is built on, like, they're not ashamed to say, hey man, if like some companies, like, yo, if you're not meeting our standards of health, then that could put your job at risk, right? Because that'll increase our insurance premium, right? Like, culture, incentive systems in place, putting it as a priority in front of your population is a very big deal. So having RFK at the head at least puts somebody there who cares to put it in front of the American people.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we think about the incentives that insurance companies used to put on like good drivers,
yes,
for better
yes,
car insurance. And I think, like, man, I go to the clinic and my premium, my insurance is so high. I'm like, why am I paying the same or more than someone else who is such a higher liability risk? Like, it doesn't make sense on paper, really.
Correct. Right. Let's incentivize things like the good driver discount, right? I have a good driver discount. My premium is low because I've never been in a major accident and I've been driving for more than 2 decades, right? So let's incentivize those things. And my hope is that RFK will start some of those programs.
Well, we'll see. But thank you for that insight. That was I can tell that you're not only knowledgeable, but you're passionate about it. You care about it. That shows.
Thank you.
So I have kind of prepared roughly 10 questions. They're pretty basic, but the overall theme is a lot of us over the holidays, over the cold winter months, wearing hoodies. I know here in Southern California, it's ironic, but everyone wears black hoodies and black sweats, even though it's still sunny outside, but I can't figure it out. But we love to have all of our treats and all of our tasty things. And then come maybe February, March, we start thinking, oh man, I really got to get in shape for the summer. So I kind of got the top 10 most common questions. And I thought we would start by just kind of defining, at least in your opinion, what you would say is like being in shape for the summer shape, or summer bod, or ready for the summer, whatever you want to call it.
Well, in terms of like leanness, I think most men, anywhere between 10 to the 15% body fat range, very manageable, very achievable, something that you could hold on to year round for your entire life, probably, and still have a life outside of the weight room and the not having to bring your kitchen scale along with you. I think between 10 and 15% is something that is achievable, as in like the summer body that most people want. For female, probably around 18%, 20 to 24%. It's probably the quote unquote summer body, right? Well, that you have a little bit of muscle tone. You're probably packing anywhere between a 4 or a 6 pack. Like, unless you're getting down to like 10% as a guy, you're not really having any striations in your shoulders or your glutes, but you're lean, right? You could see like
Mhm.
with clothes and without clothes, people are going to be able to like, that guy's athletic, right? That guy probably goes to the gym, probably watches what he eats, and he still has some room for a burger and fries and some beer with the boys. Same thing for the gals, right? Within that body fat range is probably what most people would expect as summer lean.
Perfect. That makes sense. And would you say that, like, how attainable is that for the average person?
For the average person, it's
Yeah.
never been easier to attain. Like we spoke about earlier, the amount of information there is available to you. There's less smoke and mirrors. It's not gate kept. I don't even want to say that it was gate kept. It just took a lot of time for the science to catch up to the bro science. But at the end of the
Yeah,
day,
'cause
it really is. Go ahead.
I've been watching Liver King. I've been watching Liver King for a few months, and like I haven't seen my abs pop out yet.
Liver King is a very special person. Very special person. I don't wish him any animosity, but my goodness, if you are going to Liver King for your fitness and nutrition advice, I've got a bridge in London to sell you. Okay. But your question is, how achievable is it? It's achievable to those who want it really bad. Right? Because
so it takes some effort.
it does, right? And I don't want to underscore it, right? You really do have to want it. I know that seems so silly. Everybody wants it, but everybody wants a lot of things, but the actions have to match the language. If you say you want financial freedom, and then what you're doing is you're blowing every paycheck at the club, recreational drugs, drinking, right? You don't budget your daily expenses of living, and you're telling me you want financial freedom. The actions do not match the wants. And it's the same thing with fitness. The actions have to match the want. So it has to come from you internally. As simple as that may seem, it's actually one of the most complicated parts.
So let's say that I really want it, like really, really want it. I'm committed. Now, how much of that effort is diet and how much of that is activity, is burning calories?
Probably the answer that most people don't want to hear, but a lot of that is going to come down to your nutrition. I don't know what the percentage number is, but it's definitely greater than 50%. And probably greater than 60%, probably greater than 70%. I do not want to underscore just exactly how important the nutrition aspect of the whole enterprise is. Going to the gym, getting a requisite amount of daily activity. In the industry, we usually measure that in terms of step count, right? The average is usually, if you're getting anywhere between 8 to 10,000 steps a day, that is a perfect amount of daily activity level that complements your nutrition to get you going, right? But when it comes to getting down to the 10 to 15% body fat levels, especially if you really want to get down to like close, like low double digits, high single digits, your nutrition has to be on point, right? I know a lot of people want to believe that the law of thermodynamics doesn't exist. I know a lot of people want to believe that calories in, calories out, that calorie balance doesn't exist. The unfortunate reality is the math exists. And if you're consuming more than your body needs, you're gonna gain weight. If you're consuming less than your body needs, you're gonna lose weight. I've had it so many times, not just with my personal clients, but across other colleagues' clients. They say, I'm following the nutrition, but I'm still not losing weight. By definition, you're overeating. Now, obviously, a lot of it, right, there's context. Like we were talking about with Cass. Cass could be following her nutrition to a T, but if she's overly stressed, right, she's a lady, so she has to deal with her menstrual cycles. that contributes a lot. If you're not getting enough sleep, if you're stressed all the time, yes, within the context, those can definitely affect your weight loss. But for most people, what they realize is the reason why the nutrition part of it is not working is because they're actually not eating in a calorie deficit. I've gone through it so many times with clients. I've had colleagues that have gone through it with their clients where they will go through their log. Okay, are you actually eating what you're supposed to be eating? Are you staying within the bounds of your calorie goals? And what we realize is, you know what? I worked and they had a bagel. I had the bagel, didn't log it. I had a handful of chips, didn't log it. I had a handful of mixed nuts, right? Some cashews, some almonds, didn't log it. I was cooking and I was grazing, I was having a bite here, bite there, didn't log it. You would not believe just exactly how much those little things that you do not track add up throughout the day in terms of you going over your plan in terms of calories, right? At the end of the day, it comes down to calorie balance, right? So the nutrition part of it, I do not want to underscore just how important it is in losing weight and meeting your goals. It is a very big part, certainly more than 50%.
So let's say that I got my nutrition and I'm taking it seriously. I really, really want it. And I start with my diet, with my exercise, and 2 weeks go by and I haven't seen any changes. Should I be worried?
As a beginner?
Yeah.
As a beginner, I wouldn't say worried. I would just say address the nutrition component again. The first question, if I was coaching you, right, and we came up with a plan, and I asked you all of the, I go through a very standard questionnaire. Okay, did you get your workouts in? Cool. Did you get your 8 to 10,000 steps in? Cool. How are you sleeping? How are you managing your stress? If we check off all of those major boxes and you're not losing weight, then we address the nutrition component. Right? And then I have to have a very honest conversation with them. Like I said, are you grazing? Are there things that you are eating that you're not tracking? And it's not to shame them, right? It's like maybe they just don't know any better. And believe me, a lot of people just don't know any better just exactly how much those small things can add up. Sometimes it is a shame thing. Sometimes clients are ashamed to tell their coach that, coach, I fell off the wagon, right? So there's a pride, there's a shame component to that. And me as a coach, it's my responsibility to tell you, yo, we make mistakes, but in order for us, right? Because my responsibility first and foremost is to make sure that you are getting to your goals because you're paying me the damn money, right? And so my responsibility is to give you a space where you could be sure that I'm not going to judge you and bag on you for making a mistake, right? And so I tell them, look, man, I'm not going to be disappointed in you. I'm not going to yell at you. But if you want this to work, that line of communication has to be open between the two of you. Because if you lie to me and you tell me that you're doing X, Y, and Z and it's actually not happening, then the plan I am creating for you on a week-to-week basis is not going to work because I am creating a plan based on a lie. And so with a client, I have to create that space for them, right? No shame. If you made a mistake, you tell me, and then we can adjust. If you're grazing and you're not meeting your nutrition goals, then we can adjust, right? But I would say don't panic, right? We just have to see if we're checking off those big ticket items. Exercise, daily steps, sleep, stress management, and your nutrition. Those are the biggest components, right? The biggest components that I check off with my clients in order to see if they're making progress or not, and what we need to address if they've stalled on their progress, right? It's very rarely that I come across somebody that has oh, I'm actually dealing with a severe thyroid issue. That could definitely mess you up, right? it's usually one of those 5 big ticket things that we don't check off, right? And it's very rarely an actual genetic condition or a medical condition, although those occur sometimes too.
So let's say I'm a beginner and I'm not ready to count every single calorie, but I want to start cleaning up the way that I eat. I know personally, I use some kind of simple healthy eating habits and tricks. Like one of the things that I do is when I eat a meal, generally, I won't eat until I'm full like I used to. I'll eat until what I say, and it works for me. And obviously, it's different for everybody. But for me, I noticed that if I eat to like 80%, where I'm like, I feel good, but I'm not completely full.
You know who does that well? You know who does that well? The French do it really well. The French have a habit of eating until they're about 8, or I should say, leaving the table slightly a bit more hungry, still slightly hungry, right? They never eat themselves full. That's why the French consume a lot of fat, consume a lot of wine, but the French don't experience the kind of obesity epidemic that the Americans have. So that's a very good strategy, my friend. Go on.
Well, I was just going to ask you, so do you have kind of any healthy eating habits or things that people can implement into their life, even if they're not ready to get to the point where they're going to count and weigh everything out?
Yes. The way that especially with beginners, so I'm making the assumption that this is for a beginner, right? And you said it was for a beginner.
Yes.
Yeah. So I treat this like how a psychologist would treat somebody that has a phobia, right? Like that slow exposure therapy. Like if you're scared of spiders, I am not going to have you touch a spider. We might just talk about a spider. If once you're comfortable talking about a spider, maybe we look at pictures of a spider, right? Slow, gradual exposure. I approach it the same way with my nutrition clients. You're not ready to break out the nutrition scale? How about this? We just make a concentrated effort to make the better choice. You don't have to track anything. You don't have to go down to the grocery aisle and start picking out like the health, like, okay, well, I'm just going to have chicken breast and broccoli. None of that. We start off with, hey, you go about your daily life. Instead of reaching for the full calorie drink, maybe you get the one that's a half calorie or a 0 calorie option. If you're at work and your work gives you lunch, right? They have a cafeteria where you have community like treats and stuff like that. Instead of reaching for the full fat Lay's bag, go for the baked Lay's. Right? So that's how I start off with a lot of my clients who are actually like true blue beginners. Right? To not overwhelm them, make a concentrated effort on starting with the better options. Right? Because, hey, you don't have to track a damn thing. But if you're not reaching for the full fat Lay's bag and you're reaching for the baked Lay's, guess what? You've now created a deficit in that scenario. If you're getting the diet drink instead of the full sugar drink, guess what? You're getting a deficit in that choice. Right? So it's a way for me to introduce them to those complex concepts without having to bombard them with all of these technicalities, right? Because it might seem simple to you and me that have been doing this for a long time, but for a lot of people, what the hell do you mean calorie deficit? What the hell do you mean protein, carbs, and fat? What the hell do you mean weighing the scale? What the hell do you mean like beginners? Their eyes will glaze over in a second if you approach it like that as a coach. Some people are receptive to it. And they're like, yo, throw me into the fire. Cool. Most people, slow and steady approach, slow exposure therapy. And that's one of the big things that I start with. And then afterwards, then we work on, okay, now you have some concept of what it's like to make the better option, right? Or at least the option that's conducive towards your end goal. The next thing I ask from them is, I just want you to start logging your food. No weighing in, nothing. Just tell me every single day what you have for breakfast, what you have for lunch and dinner, what you have for snacks, right? Like, and I want you to record. If you're grazing, record handful of this, handful of that. And the reason why that's so effective is it introduces them to tracking without tracking so much of the details, right? It's a foundation, right? It's a foundation. And as a coach, that's valuable for me because I learn, all right, Cassie likes these types of foods. She likes to eat maybe heavier carbs, less fats, moderate protein, or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe it's moderate protein. She likes more fats and less carbs, right? And that's beneficial to me as a coach because it tells me, she likes to eat this way. And so I'm not going to suddenly throw her in a carnivore diet that doesn't have any carbohydrates. I can skin a cat many ways. I can make people lose weight no matter what the nutrition protocol. I say that with 100% confidence. If Cassie likes to have more carbohydrates and less fat and moderate protein, that's exactly how I'm going to tailor her diet. Exactly. Because that way, she doesn't have to make any drastic changes. She doesn't have to give up the foods that she likes, right? She's still eating the carbohydrates.
Yeah. I think that you hear that from a lot of people too, where they're like, oh man, I'm trying this new diet, but it doesn't have anything that I like. And really, how sustainable is that?
That's the key. How sustainable is it? If I put Cass on a diet where she's already eating all of the things that she likes, just maybe a bit less of it, that is more sustainable. It doesn't introduce the kind of stress into her life that a diet like a carnivore diet might introduce to her life because she's eating nothing that she likes. So those are my
on that note, kind of, we're already like halfway into the question, but I was going to ask, so you hear this a lot. Do you need to cut out carbs or sugar to get in shape?
No. Some people, it does help, right? Because some people have, it's like a placebo effect. Think of it as a placebo effect. You know how like back then people didn't eat pork because they thought pork was like morally not good for you to eat. But really what they avoided was the foodborne bacteria that pork had, right? Like, or if you hear a story about a porcupine, don't touch a porcupine because the spines are poisonous. Not really poisonous, right? But thinking that the spines are poisonous makes you avoid it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying that it's not necessarily effective to avoid sugars, right? It is effective because when you avoid processed sugar, guess what? You also tend to avoid a lot of the very hyper palatable, super tasty that we want to eat more of, and very calorie dense foods. And so if you avoid all processed sugars, guess what you probably are also going to avoid? You're going to avoid cakes, you're going to avoid pastries, you're going to avoid donuts, right? You're going to avoid all of those things that are really easy to overeat on and that are super tasty and are very calorie dense. So it's good in that aspect, right? But you don't have to restrict yourself to that degree in order to lose weight. It always comes down to, are you eating within the context of your plan? Are you achieving a calorie deficit, right? You guys might have heard of this. This is a famous study. We have to look up the actual professor that did it, right? But he wanted to make a freaking point to his students. Do you think I could lose weight that my blood markers, right? All of those things that the machine spits out when you get a physical, right? Can I improve all of my blood markers? Can I lose the weight eating nothing but Twinkies and some veg? Look this up, the Twinkie diet. Twinkie diet. And guess what? He bet all of the students. Guess who won? Professor did.
I would assume the professor, yeah. Sounds like he knew what he was doing.
Yep. He stayed within a calorie deficit. Not only did he lose the weight that he said he was going to lose and then some, all of his blood markers improved. All of it. Combine it with exercise. So no, you don't have to avoid sugar. You don't have to avoid seed oils. in order to accomplish your goals. I'm not saying avoiding those things aren't effective, but do not fall into the trap of I have to avoid all of my favorite foods, right? In some cases, people like sugar. People like to drink, right? Alcohol has sugar. People like to have burgers and fries. People like to have a little bit of dessert when they're out there having dinner with their spouse, their significant other. You have a birthday, have a piece of damn cake, right? You don't have to avoid it in order to achieve your goals, but you do have to stay within the bounds of your plan of the calorie deficit.
So let's touch on this really quickly while we're in the area. Let's say I'm trying to make better choices. I go to the vending machine. I'm like, okay, you know what? Instead of getting a Coke, I'm going to get a Diet Coke. And then I go back to my desk, I crack it open, and my coworker's like, oh man, can't believe you're drinking Diet Coke. That stuff's going to kill you. What's the truth about sugar alternatives, alternative sweeteners, and those kinds of things?
So does artificial sweeteners cause cancer? They do. They do. But once again, context is important, right? If you actually look at the literature regarding that particular study, right? They had the way that they induced the carcinogenic effects of this particular sweetener. I forgot which sweetener that they were using in the mice. Was, let's just say, in order for you to get a dose similar to that, and you use the diet soda example, which is great. You would drown from the amount of diet soda that you would need to consume. You would die first of drowning before you could ever elicit the type of carcinogenic effect from artificial sweetener, right? If you scaled it to a human subject, and we don't even know if it's a 1-for-1 mechanistic effect.
Yeah.
We don't know, right? And so, does it cause cancer? Yeah, sure. Can you scale that to a human level? I would say the data on that is right now that says no, and we need a lot more, right? Now, artificial sweeteners do have some side effects for some people, right? Some people get really irritable, like gut issues when consuming sometimes of artificial sweeteners. So you should be wary of that. But anybody that tells you that, and here's the thing, right? It's just like it was the study was on one artificial sweetener. There are tons of different artificial sweeteners out there. So if you hear anybody make a blanket statement that artificial sweeteners are going to kill you, probably take it with a big grain of salt. I'm not saying they're stupid, right? Because a lot of smart people say stupid shit.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not saying they're stupid, but probably take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. There's context and everything. I know for me personally, I get that a lot. They're like, Nate, you're such a healthy guy. Can't believe you're drinking diet soda. But he's over there popping like the 6th in of the day. So it's hard to take it seriously sometimes. So I want to switch to a little bit of the psychology of getting into shape and stuff. I know this is a question that a lot of people have. So when life gets busy, when your motivation, which it will inevitably, dip, how do you stay consistent?
So that is going to be that's a very personal question, right? And I don't mean personal like I can't share it, but it's personal to the individual. So you know how I keep consistent? I have a strong sense of vanity. I am extremely vain. That's how I stay consistent. Even when I'm not motivated, I'm like, yo, if I don't get up in the morning and I don't look at myself in the mirror and I'm like, yo, good job. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Right. So there's a very big vanity component for me. I'm also somebody who's very hard on myself. It's like, hey, dickhead, you're supposed to be exercising. I know you're tired. I know you might have not gotten enough sleep. I know you'd rather stay an hour extra in bed and cuddle your beautiful wife. I know you'd rather do all that stuff. Right. But you need to get the hell up. Right. You need to be an adult and you need to fulfill the promise that you made to yourself, even when you don't want to, and you need to go out and do it. That's a very personal thing, right? That's not going to work with everybody.
Mm-hmm.
All right? That kind of self-talk is not going to work with everybody. And so how you stay consistent, even when you're running out of motivation, unfortunately, my answer to everybody who's watching is not the prettiest, right? It's not the easiest. It's something that it's a very personal thing that you have to find in yourself, right? It might be, I work with some seniors, right? When I spent a lot of time in my undergrad working with, I did a lot of internship. I did a big internship over at Scottsdale Community College. They were a very common outpatient fitness facility. So folks that were recovering from like cardiac arrest, right? A lot of their rehabs would be there. So I worked a lot with that population, spent a lot of time with the football team and the basketball team. And for some of those, like for the senior population in particular, a lot of their motivations were like, yeah, man, like I want to be able, I've had this heart attack and I really want to take the fitness seriously. I have grandkids and I really want to be able to like pick my grandkid up off the ground when we're putting the Christmas tree topper up and lift them from the ground up and then have them put up the tree. Some like that's a very personal thing, right? But that's kept them motivated. Right. I'm like, if you're an older person, the last thing on your mind is probably going to the gym like 3 or 4 times a week. Right. Like you probably just want to enjoy your retirement years. But for some of that population, that was their motivation. Right. I want to be able to keep up with my grandkids. Right. That's a very personal thing. And that got them out of bed doing the things that they don't want to do. My good friend, he's out in the other room. He's in the other room right now. Cars. That dude. Like he doesn't care about getting jacked and tan. You know what he approached me with? He's like, yo, I have this skill that I want to improve on. Right. Because he's very big into collecting guns. He's competing like he has these competitions at the range. And he realized that, yo, man, like the skill, I have the skill, right? The skill I enjoy learning about, right? Being better at the skill of shooting. But I know that my physical capabilities is not up to par because there's a lot of formal military that he's competing with. Those guys are jacked to the gills, right? For him, the motivation is to get up in the morning. He's getting up with me at like 5 a.m. in the morning, hitting the gym, and he hates the gym. He absolutely hates it. Hates it. Doesn't enjoy it whatsoever. But what motivates him? It's a very personal thing. I want to get better at my skill. It's going to be a personal thing to find motivation when you don't want to go. It's a personal thing. It's very individual. There's no blanket answer, unfortunately. I'm sorry I can't give you a blanket answer.
No, that's okay. So you touched on it briefly there, but let's say that either from circumstance or you just hate it so much, you don't want to actually go to a gym. What can you do? Can you still get in shape without going to a gym? Do you have to go there and be around all these people, ego lifting in your face, setting up cameras in the mirror? What can you do?
So I love this question because when I lost so for those of you who don't know, I was diagnosed morbidly obese freshman year of high school. I was 5'2", 240 pounds, pre-diabetic, a metabolic disorder, high triglycerides, 3 times normal amount of cholesterol, you name it, I had it. And what I did to lose the big first chunk of the weight, I worked out at home and nothing structured. I don't know if I've ever shared this story. Well, I guess I'm sharing it now. I lost like the first 50 pounds or so playing Dance Revolution. Wow. I was really good at that game. Like when I say good, I wasn't playing the beginner difficulty. I was at the ironic heavy difficulty. They called it heavy difficulty, heavy mode. I was really good at moving. That's how I lost the first 50. I found something that I enjoyed. I played video games to lose weight. Right? And then when I got more structured, when I was like, you know what? I want to put on some muscle. I started off with like some weights, a fitness bench, and then I found one of the actual decent infomercials back in the 2000s. That was Power 90 Extreme, Tony Horton, Beachbody, home fitness program. A lot of people bag on Tony because he's like, get in shape in 90 days and muscle confusion. They always zone in on the semantics, right? And I get it. I get where the sentiment is coming from. But what Tony Horton did for me was he made hard work attractive. Tony Horton sold Beachbody was a company. It wasn't just isolated to Tony Horton. Beachbody sold a suite of fitness and nutrition products that was unlike anything else on the market. And I say unlike because they sold hard work. Do you know how Tony Horton promoted home fitness program? He said, you're going to have to work out anywhere between 4 to 5 days a week. You're not just going to be benching, right? You're not just going to be lifting weights. You're going to be doing cardio. You're going to be lifting weights, but you're going to be working on muscular strength, muscular endurance. You're going to be working on flexibility. We're going to do a little bit of yoga. We're going to work on some plyometrics, right? Some power training. And you're not going to and you can't eat like an asshole. He sold hard work to people. Right. And I remember that. At home. All of that was done at home. All of it. I didn't have to step outside of my house. Didn't have to go to the gym. Didn't need a gym membership. Nothing. All I needed was a set of dumbbells, right? A pull-up bar, and that was it. If you didn't have a set of dumbbells, resistance band. That's it. No bench, no equipment, just you and your body. And it's even easier today, right? Because you have Jeff Cavalier, Athlete X. He bags on Tony Horton, but Athlete X. I wonder what inspired that name, right?
Yeah.
But he has a lot of home fitness, all just body weight exercises. Your jam is like spin classes. Guess what? You got spin classes right there on YouTube. All you need is a bike. Right? There's so many free resources out there on YouTube on effective home workouts that you can incorporate. You never have to step foot inside of a gym. And if that kind of structured workout isn't for you, guess what? A lot of people, they like to hike. They like to bike. Some people, they like to run. Some people, they like to climb. A lot of climbing gyms out there. Some people, they like combat sports. Some people, dancing, they love to dance. If you're a guy, you better know how to dance, man.
Yeah, and so
skin a cat, man.
Along with that question, then, summer activities. How can you make the most out of those? I think a lot of us were more active. We're more outdoors in the summer. So how can you maximize that?
In terms of summer activities, I would say maximize it, especially if like you're out there in SoCal. Yeah, take advantage of the beautiful weather. I don't know if Venice Venice Beach is there in SoCal, but they have the gym that Arnold used to train in. It was an outside gym. Take advantage of the natural gym that Mother Nature grants us. Go out there and hike. Go out there and take a walk. Walk the dogs. Go out there and rent a kayak, right? Go out there rowing with your friends. Go out there and rock climb. Right? If you have the advantage, right? If the environment allows you, that's how you take advantage of that summertime stuff. Right? Mm-hmm. Go out there and train in Mother Nature. She has a lot to offer.
Well said. Thank you so much. I have 2 more questions.
Let's do it. I got 10 minutes.
We'll wrap it up.
Yeah.
So this next question is a little bit more complex, but we have this beautiful thing called social media, and you can love it, but sometimes, man, you hate it. So how, for a lot of us, especially beginners, when we're getting into trying to get into shape and get fit, how can we deal with those negative feelings towards the way that we look, and especially how that connects with social media? We're looking at other people. Man, they look so good. Am I ever going to look like that?
Yeah.
I think that's something that a lot of us struggle with.
Comparison is a thief of joy. A lot of people, and I actually experience this a lot with female clients. They tend to compare themselves to other women in social media, right? And I know it's difficult to not do that, especially when you have aspirations of a physique that you admire. You see somebody, they have the physique that you admire. So I know it's difficult to do the comparison thing. I would say, look at the people that you admire and use them for motivation, but realize that your physique is not their physique. Your ideal physique is isolated to you. You're not going to their ideal physique is not your ideal physique because you are not them. Right? So make peace with that fact. And I think social media has less of an effect on you. Right? Use them for motivation. There's a lot of good content out there on social media from a lot of fitness influencers. But make peace with the fact that their ideal physique is not your ideal physique because they are not you. Right? And that thing is going to take some time. For a lot of people, they realize it sooner rather than later. For some people, they realize it later rather than sooner. Just like with finding motivation on those days that you can't find motivation, that journey is going to be very individual. But that's what I would say. If you find yourself comparing yourself to other people, thinking that you will never achieve their physique, you're correct, because you are not them. But you can achieve your ideal physique, and that's what you have to internalize. I am not them. My ideal physique is not going to be their physique. It's the simplest way that I can put it. Yeah.
To add to that too, just from my experience, there's a really beautiful thing that happens when you realize, not realize as in, when you actualize the physique that your body is, and you find that you may have something that you genetically excel at and you never knew. You're like, wow, like this part of my body is actually really nice. I never saw it before, but now that you see it, it really is such a nice thing for yourself and your self-worth, your self-identity. Be like, this is me, and I actually like the way that I look.
Yes.
Compared to this other person.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And that kind of realization takes time. I wish that I had a much longer torso. I have a long torso that's good for squatting, but I don't have the long torso that allows me to achieve the kind of V-shaped aesthetic vacuum that some of my favorite classic physique people have, right? But I have very broad shoulders. I always get the first thing that people ask me is like, hey, are you in gymnastics? Because you have the frame of a gymnast, very broad shoulders, slightly tapered waist. So I have shoulders are one of the first things that people recognize when I'm wearing a tank top. Right. So, but it takes time for you to find those things. And when you do find those things, like what you just said, appreciate them, because that is yours. Right? That is yours and only yours. And be proud of that.
So my last question is a simple one, but it's probably pretty difficult, or maybe not, I don't know. But if you had to give somebody one small change that would make the biggest difference in just their health overall, one small change for the biggest difference, what would you say?
It doesn't have anything to do with fitness and nutrition. Manage your stress. People underestimate just exactly how much chronic stress can fuck up your shit. How much that bleeds in every single aspect of your life. Your fitness goals, your nutrition goals, your relationship, your sleep. Learn how to manage your stress properly, and I guarantee you a lot of other things fall into place. And just like with everything else, managing stress is a skill. It's a skill that I've had to develop, and it's a skill that I've gotten very good at, because I realized just exactly how much that impacted all other aspects of my life. In my relationship with people, my relationship with colleagues, with my loved ones, at work, my fitness, my nutrition, my sleep. I realized just exactly how much that impacted my goals in all of those aspects of life. And once I got very competent, I would say mastered. I want to say master. That's I'm way away from mastering, but very competent at managing stress. All other aspects of my life, in terms of like the goal setting, right? Me achieving X, Y, and Z goals. Let's just say my return on investment in achieving goals has been a lot better once I've gotten better at managing stress. So that thing, right? That one thing, learning how to manage stress properly. I'm not talking about like the good stress, because we take on a lot of good stress too, right? If you go to the gym because you enjoy it, that's good stress, right? I'm talking about like the bad stress, right? The chronic types of stresses, right? Working at a job you hate, for example, right? That's one thing. Staying in a relationship that's abusive, that's another thing. Right.
Man, I'm so glad that you that was your answer, because it's such a powerful thing, and I think it's such an overlooked part of our society, or diminished compared to a lot of other aspects in life. And you're right, it's everything. It affects everything, and it honestly, whatever effort you put into any other aspect of life, if you don't have that under control, it's robbing you of progress. It's robbing you of results.
Yeah. By a lot, man. I do not want to underscore that. It robs you of a lot.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Jay.
Very welcome.
We appreciate your insight. We appreciate your candor. I know that a lot of times in the fitness industry, but just in life in general, people don't want to tell you the painful truth, but you have never shied away from that, and we appreciate that a lot. I do, especially.
Well, thank you, sir. Yeah, man. More often than not, I've realized that it's a lot easier to accept the pain of the truth, because the pain is upfront, than to suffer the pain of a lie. Because the pain of a lie is compounding, man. It's compound interest.
Yeah. Well, speaking of pain, I'm gonna go hit legs today.
Yes, sir.
So we're gonna have some pain, but over the years of doing it, it's actually become my favorite workout of the week. So
glad to hear it. You're a
you
part
guys
of us.
have a great. Well, we'll try to stick with it as long as we can. I'm gonna hit 40 this year, and the strongest I've ever been. So
wonderful.
That's a big goal that I've been working towards, and gonna achieve it.
Hell yes. Glad to hear it, sir.
That's awesome, Nate. Thank you so much for joining us. Before you head out, did you want to tell the people kind of what you're up to, if you got anything going on, and maybe kind of just, pitch your socials, things like that?
Well, I'm here in San Diego. I've got a lot of projects in the works, but I'm actually one of those freaks that doesn't really do social media. Like one of those, my wife has it, and that's enough for me. I just, and I don't really take a lot of pictures too. Always been that kind of guy who's like, I like to live in the moment, experience the moment. If I'm at an event or a restaurant, I'm in the front row of the concert, I'm enjoying the meal. I'm not really trying to document it. I'm like, you know what? I want to be here in the moment. So unfortunately, you can't really follow me on a lot of things, but I'm in the chat all the time, and hopefully maybe in the future I'll be a little bit more involved. But for now, just like to contribute where I can.
Gotcha. Totally fair, totally reasonable. So basically what he's saying, guys, is if anybody wants to talk to Nate the Great over here, you got to join our Telegram. Scan this QR code.
That's right.
Or jump down into our video description. The link is always in there, and we'd be happy to have you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you again, and hope you have a great workout.
See you guys.
See you next time. Okay. All right, that was awesome.
Yes, ma'am.
He had some great questions. I do want to say we got just a couple of chat shout outs, if you're all right with going over those real quick.
Yeah, let's go. If my client shows up, I do have to jet, but let's go while they're not here.
Yeah, there's only 5, so we should be real fast through here. So we got the Ascending Man who popped in when I accidentally scheduled this for the wrong time hours ago. He says, "Good news! I broke my previous sales record and I'm almost into the next pay tier. It's awesome. Good to know, honey." And then we got Funkmaster Hex says, "Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. Always great to see Funkmaster in here." And we got Crypto Boogie with the little fire emojis. Great to see you, brother. And then Yellowtail, he just popped in. He says, "I'm 1986. I don't know if he means like that's his birth year or like what exactly, but apparently he's 1986. And then if you have a chance here, we have a question from Crypto Boogie. He says, "Gorilla Mind energy drinks are my favorite, and they have sucralose but no sugar. What's your opinion on that drink?"
Nothing on Gorilla Mind, the brand in particular. I know that's a very popular supplement brand. So I'll comment on the sucralose thing. Like I said, man, when we were talking about the artificial sweetener stuff, if you're drinking artificial sweeteners, in particular sucralose, and it doesn't like interfere with your gut, you're fine, man. Like you're totally fine. If that thing allows you to stay on track, stay on your plan without having to like crave other sweets, then you're totally fine. You're totally fine.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you again so much for your time, Jay. I really appreciate you coming on and having these streams with us. Did you have anything you wanted to pitch before you head out? Anything going on that you want to announce to anybody?
No, ma'am. The same old song and dance. You can find me in the Telegram. So scan that damn QR code. We stream there 7:45, between 7:45 and 8 a.m. as our start time usually. We anywhere between 30 to 45 minutes on average every single morning, or as time would permit. I've been extremely busy this week, so I haven't been able to go on there as much as I would like. Hoping to get in there tomorrow morning with a market open stream because it's the end of the week. Aside from that, you can find me on Instagram at agent_J Schroth, on X at _P90 Hex. If you are looking for a fitness nutrition coach, yeah, I offer those services as well. Not just consultation when it comes to crypto technical analysis and all that stuff. But aside from that, yeah, that's all I got.
All right, perfect. All right, as for me, we're gonna do another. I'm probably gonna do another one of these next week, so I can stay on track with the every other week since this one was again delayed. For DRT, I believe we should have book club tomorrow. I'm not completely positive on that because I know Zenith is in the process of moving.
Yeah, he's still moving.
So we actually might not have one, but so stay tuned. Just watch out. If it pops up, you'll know. But I will double check as well tonight and try to say something in the Telegram, but no promises because I've been super busy too. And trying to remember all of the little small things right now is a little difficult. But other than that, if you want to talk to me, if you want to follow along in our accountability and our goal creation and just to kind of what we've all been up to with these health streams and the Telegram, like I said, please scan that QR code. Or if you're like me and you just don't like QR codes, there is a link in the description. Just pull that up. Should be easy to find. And yeah, we're in there. You can always chat with us most times of the day. And if we're not responding, go ahead, tag us. All of the DJs are in there. So I'm sure you can find somebody who is able to help you out with whatever the heck you have, that you want to know about. Anyways, that's all we've got for tonight, folks. Thank you so much for joining us. And until next time, remember to degen responsibly.